I'm Charlene Saker, and this is Living in Between. Between our first breath and the day we reunite with Jesus, there's this in-between space, the not yet, the place where life unfolds, where we learn, where we wrestle, where we grow. So how do we live well here? Even when it's hard, even when it's messy, let's figure it out together. So there's a story behind this tea set, and this is why we're having tea with this tea set. But I mean, tea and cake is the best as well. Now, tell me a little bit about where this tea set came from.
Well, this tea set I inherited from my mother, who bought it in the 1970s. You can see the design on it.
Amazing.
And I wasn't using it because green is not my color, and so is the design, although it's an expensive one. So I was very delighted when you told me when you got married, can I please have this tea set, because I wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah. I think I feel like a savior of this tea set because
Yes,
I saved it before you got rid of it. I was like, no,
Yes.
please, I want it.
Yes. I think I was a bit disappointed when you guys said you were moving overseas and you gave it back to me, because then I was stuck with it again. So I was very happy when you didn't go and you got it back.
Yeah, I mean, your version of events is that I stole it back. So I'm happy to hear that you say that
It was a pleasure.
You were happy to give it back. So this tea set has been very well traveled.
Yes.
Not used very much because I feel it's like too precious to use a lot. You know, you feel like using it too much means it's going to get damaged. So, but it's very special because there's like such a legacy attached to this, like from the 70s, from your mom. In fact, there's actually a few things I own that was from your mom, from my grandmother.
Yes,
I never met her, but it's just amazing. So I've also got a dressing table that I use daily, which was hers, then yours, now mine.
Yeah.
In fact, the cot that you slept in, right, the wooden cot, I slept in as a baby, didn't I? Or not?
All four the sisters. And most of my grandkids, yes.
Yes, yeah, we ended up with it as well. And so our
Yes.
firstborn slept in that cot as well.
Yes,
It's incredible.
exactly.
So I love it's like these family heirlooms. You don't understand it until you get older, but now you understand, oh, wow, this is like so meaningful.
Exactly.
And it carries so much history. Every time I make food with a wooden spoon that my opa, your father-in-law, who passed away, every time I cook with those wooden spoons, it's just like a little reminder of the history there.
And I think I just want to add that, you know, for me, whenever somebody gives me something, you know, you cannot use that item without thinking of that person.
Yeah.
And so it is quite a special thing.
Totally. Okay, so the reason why I invited you to tea is because I love talking about parenting and families, and I'm in the thick of raising young children. I've got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. It's busy, it's wild, and you have been in ministry for 39 years alongside my dad as pastors, counselors, trainers. I know that you've done, I remember being teenagers and you doing parenting courses in our house, and you've worked a lot with families.
Yeah.
You've seen what to do and what not to do.
Yes.
Not in an arrogant way, but these are some of the common things that people do. And as parents, we always, most parents try their best. But you don't know what you don't know. And so that's the benefit of wisdom and hindsight. So just to also say, you are also a mom to 4 daughters.
Yes.
The oldest is turning 50. My sister's turning 50 in April, so
right.
you have been a mom for 50 years already.
Yes, I
have. Which is incredible. And then you have 9 grandchildren, 7 boys, 2 girls, and the oldest grandchild is 20 years old.
Yes, that's right.
So there are a lot of, there's just a lot of experience there. So I would love to chat with you from the perspective of someone who's been a pastor and a trainer and also a speaker. You've done a lot of public speaking and just talking around families. What are some of the common mistakes that you have witnessed parents make? Again, not out of any ill or meaning to harm, but just because of not knowing what to do.
You know, Charlene, it's always a thing for me to know that the two biggest roles in your life is your marriage and parenting.
So good.
But those are the two areas that we hardly ever get training in. And so Marius, your dad, and I wrote a premarital training manual because we feel, and we tell couples, we want you for 6 sessions at least, and we want to start months before your wedding because we realize it's so important. And the same with parenting, you know, because parents, we actually seen in the times that we were doing parenting courses how some couples said, we don't need to do that. And then we see the roll out of that, the mistakes that has happened in their parenting, and you think, well, you thought you knew what you were doing, but you actually didn't.
I have a friend who always used to say, it's like, at some point, you don't know when, might come later, but at some point parenting will humble you. And it's so true, because I have had friends who, they had girls first and they thought, why is your child so out of control? Because I had a boy. And then the second child was a boy, and it was like, oh, yes, redemption. Like, I was not the problem. but like there's a point where parenting just humbles you. Because you just could not possibly know everything. There isn't,
No, for sure.
Anyway, so what are some of the other things you
you know, we work in culturally very different areas, from township churches to affluent areas. And so some of the mistakes that we've seen that parents make is linked to culture, where there are certain norms in culture that is just a norm, and people don't think about it. They don't think about the fact that it is actually not biblical, so they keep on making those mistakes.
It's more just a cultural accepted norm.
Yes, and they're actually too scared, or they're not willing to actually break out of that mold and to tell their parents, you know, things. And I will speak a little bit about that when I speak about, you know, our role as grandparents. So I will speak about that later. But what I've seen is, in counselling, because people only come to you for counselling when there's a serious problem.
Yeah, when it's now an emergency.
Yes, when the child is completely rebelled, now they want to see you. And so often they want to drag a child along that doesn't want to be there. So we always say we're not going to force a child. We want to see the parents first.
Oh, yes.
But there are 2 types of parents. Well, there are actually 3 types, but there are 2 types. So one is too religious. And we've seen that so many times. So that they want to force a child. They've got to, as a family, read the Bible together in the morning. They've got to watch a Christian program in the afternoon. They've got, they check everything, and they're trying to raise the children in a very religious manner.
Yeah.
The other parents are the ones that give, from young, they give the children a choice. You don't have to go to church if you don't want to go to church.
These days we call it gentle parenting.
Gentle parenting. But it is so gentle, it's actually, and what I've seen in the ministry and in counselling in both those cases, as teenagers and older children, they rebel. Because there was either too much force or too little. And so the kids, they rebel. You know, I think the best way to parent is, it's a lifestyle that you live as a family. They must see you imitate Jesus in the home and in everything that you do and how you do it. And you must make it desirous for them to follow God, to want to follow Jesus, with no forcing and not giving. Small children don't need that many choices. And, you know, I'm always reminded, coming back to the parenting courses that we did, which was the Growing Kids God's Way courses that Gary and Anne-Marie Esso did. And there was one specific one that they spoke about, funnel parenting, where, you know, where a child is, when they're little, the funnel is narrow, and you have lots of boundaries around them.
Yeah.
And then as they grow, the funnel gets wider and you give them more wider boundaries. But many parents turn the funnel upside down.
So true.
So what they do is they give the child all the choices when they're little, and then when the problems start, when the child becomes a teenager, they try to narrow that funnel.
And then the teenager rebels because they
Yeah.
actually are now wanting to be independent, but they are being squeezed, or don't have room to practice being an adult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that we've seen mostly in all our counselling that we've done over the years.
Yeah, that's so good. One thing I just want to quickly say, because I know you've got a few more things and observations, but what you said just around marriage counseling and parenting counseling, it just made me think about how important it is to also understand that your marriage is a foundation of your parenting.
Yeah.
I've just realized this because also the kids do what they see. And so when you say do this, do what I say, not what I do. That doesn't work.
No, of course
because
not.
Kids are smart. They observe. My kids, I mean, my 8-year-old often calls me out. I remember once getting upset in traffic, and he said, like, you're not supposed to talk to people that way. And I'm like, sorry, buddy, you're right. So they, from a young age, they can see hypocrisy. They can see the discrepancy between what you say and what you do very quickly.
Children are very observant, and they actually can see.
Yeah.
Even if you say the right thing, they can see that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That you don't mean it.
It's terrifying, but it's
it
good.
Is terrifying.
It's good for us because it does grow us. But the point is that prioritizing your own maturity and the maturity of your marriage is, I just feel, and this is what I've seen, is it's just such a great foundation for raising healthy kids.
Absolutely.
Because you model then health.
Exactly. And I think I just want to add to that, if the mom and dad is not on the same page completely with parenting, children will find the gap in between.
Oh, yeah. They find the weakest link and they go for it.
For sure.
My kids like, so I'm kind of like the soft parent. Like, I just feel so bad for them. Shame. The moment my husband walks in the door, they suddenly like change their tune. Now they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, mom, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, the weakest link. They know that I just feel so bad for them,
No, for sure.
They find that link.
For sure.
Anyway, but please continue. There's a lot of good stuff coming out here.
Something that I do want to mention is, the transition of children from being children into becoming teenagers, because there's a biological or hormonal thing that changes when a child becomes 12, 13 years old, in those mid-teen years, and then older children. And parents forget that they have older kids, and they still try to treat them the same as they did when they were 7 or 8 years old. And especially if the younger siblings, in my opinion, there has to become like a distinct way in the difference that you parent, and with a little bit more privileges. And that's where you need to teach your younger siblings. It's not unfair, because those words I've heard, that the older child,
I go to bed so late.
Just a half an hour extended bed before bedtime, and stuff like that. But you have to acknowledge them as people, that they have opinions about things, and that you have to treat them differently. Because again, if you don't do that, then of course it stunts their growth, but also it makes them rebellious. So it's very vital. And then, of course, moving on, where we had all 4 of our girls living in our house as adult children before you got married, you cannot treat them like children anymore. They are adults with their own lives and their own things, although you're still cohabiting in the same space. And of course, there are certain dynamics. You can't just leave things. You've got to do some chores and so on. But I think especially Marius, my husband, struggled with that bit as a man to actually do a click over in his brain to say, listen, these kids are older and I've got to treat them differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, because then there's harmony.
Yeah.
And you, to me, it shows respect to them for the phase of life where they are in.
But people also live up to what you believe about them. So for me, I've just seen, and this is more from the life coaching side, but I've seen that if you are treated like you can't be independent, if you are treated like you can't take responsibility, you're going to live up to that. And so it's also giving them the opportunity to make choices. Like, I trust you. You have everything in you to do this and to do this well. Giving them that trust and that vote of confidence, I think, goes a long way.
No, for sure. And I mean, it's vital for them because they're moving into adulthood, and you've got to model things to them too at that stage.
Definitely. If we think about the younger years, because I've got young children, and I've often heard it said that the first 6, 7, I mean, I've heard 5 and then I've heard 7 years are essential in building a good foundation.
Absolutely.
You know, because we spoke about the funnel. And so you want, by the time they get to teenage years, you want to have installed very important values and character traits into them. So what are some of the things that are important to install in your children when they are younger?
I think, Charlene, you're touching a good point there, because to me, when I do parenting training now, I focus a lot on instilling values in your children. You know, if whatever you teach them when they're little, they build their lives on that. And the foundation need to be good values. And so whatever you do, you're the one that introduced the word intentional parenting to me many years ago. But I think you've got to be so intentional. You don't just do things for the sake of doing it, but you must be intentional. And on that point, you know, values like obedience, like respect, those type of things, you've got to teach that to your children in an intentional manner, because those are the foundation blocks that they will be employed in one day. They will be a husband or a wife. They will be a parent themselves. They will move in society. Things like generosity. You know, when my grandkids from Bahrain came, because in Bahrain there's no real poor people to, you know, and we are surrounded by people that need food. So I always, when they come, and now they ask me for it, Oma, can you take us, because we make sandwiches and we make soup and stuff, and then we go and hand it out to people, and they love doing it because I'm showing them generosity, care for other people. We don't live in a country where we just can live for ourselves, and we've got to teach that to our kids, how to look out for other people, to reach out to other people, to help wherever we can, and kindness and those things are so valuable. So yes, I think parents, if you just focus on that, you know, on focus, look, with parenting books, you can read 25,000 books, and, you know, you will be overwhelmed with the advice and things in there. And I think if you just focus on teaching the basic values to your children, you're raising children that are going to be amazing adults.
No, I agree. I would love to claim this word intentional parenting for myself, but sadly I cannot. It came from a book called Raising Passionate Jesus Followers by Phil and Diane Comer. And it's been one of the most foundational or influential books in my parenting journey, because they spoke a lot about being intentional with parenting. And then also another thing they mentioned or spoke about was asking yourself, what does this behavior look like in 20 years? And that is something I ask myself constantly. If I teach my child now that it is okay to talk to people however they want, how are they going to function in a work environment? How are they going to, what kind of spouse are they going to be? If they don't know how to sacrifice their opinion for the sake of loving people well, they are not going to, they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
And so I often have to say that to my kids, like, this is a boundary I'm putting in place because I love you, because if you don't have this boundary, it is going to make life a lot harder for you in times to come. The other thing from that book that I mentioned, which was really great, and this is just a little practical tip, is they spoke about having a character chart. And so it's also a great conversation you can have with your husband or wife and say, okay, what are the values we want to instill? And so instead of doing this chart for you made your bed, I mean, those things are important, the chore chart, but to also acknowledge character traits. I saw you being kind to your sister.
Absolutely.
I saw that you were patient. I asked you to wait and you waited well. Whatever the character traits are, generosity. I saw you share something even though it was hard. And so acknowledging and praising character.
Absolutely.
Because that starts to instill this idea that character matters more.
Yeah, I'm just reminded, in December, we had all the family, all 19 of us together on a farm for 5 days. And one of the days we celebrated all the birthdays, remember, that we didn't get to celebrate together last year. And the cousins from 5-year-old to 20-year-old, they had an opportunity to say the good things that they see in each other. And that was one of the most special moments, because they said, you are generous, or you are kind, or you are this. And to me, it was so special. And I could see on the faces of the kids how they were happy, and they were actually absorbing what their cousins were saying about them. So that acknowledgement from a parent and from others to kids are so important, to actually not just talk about bad behavior, but actually praise good behavior.
And also, like, I think just changing our language, because I think traditionally we've grown up in a culture, and more so your generation, but in a culture where we praise and acknowledge achievements. You did so well on this test. You and you basically, I mean, they speak about that being linked to a fixed mindset, where growth mindset, people do a lot better when they are trained in a growth mindset. So you're not acknowledged for the result, you're acknowledged for working hard. When people, in this particular study, and I'm paraphrasing because it's been a while since I read the details of it, but in this particular study, when people are only acknowledged for the results, they did a lot poorer on the test, where when people were able to actually just focus on the process, they were able to do better, actually. And so for me, I mean, I love to have the backing behind. I want to understand why this is important. And so I think what praising character does, it installs a growth mindset. That who I am, how I move around in the world and treat others matters more than the achievements that I have.